And I've got notes, so we'll not have to do that again. Yeah, just introductions up to now.
So have a lot on the agenda today. And so the first thing I was curious is there anything that I missed that needs to be on the agenda? I got lots of suggestions from folks trying to not put the same thing in twice with a item. So if there are any changes to the agenda anybody sees. No? Okay. Then, usually start off with some line officer reports. So staff resources and updates other than things that are associated with the specific agenda items. Let's start with Sarah.
Yeah, so obviously my biggest staffing update, you guys all got a preview of last week in our field trip to the Trinity Lake Trail project, but Jose Hernandez has started as the detailed deputy district ranger for the NRA, which is a big help. Other staffing updates, the Forest Service is doing a lot of hiring with the infrastructure bill, with disaster relief funds that are coming down for the 2020 and 2021 fire season, which includes recreation hiring. So for the NRA, we have submitted a request for approximately 6 recreation positions in an upcoming national hiring initiative for recreation positions. Those positions are looking to be advertised sometime in April. And I'll try and be clear. Submitted request does not mean request granted. So we've asked. Yes, I am talking about Shasta Lake focused positions, Sally, but depending on how further conversations go, they may help out with Trinity Lake items as needed. So, and there are also going to be, I believe, 5 or so special uses positions, and our special uses positions work across the forest boundaries. So they would be working on the Trinity NRA as well. And that's the staffing update for me. And I'll pass it to Sarah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Can everybody hear me okay?
A little hard.
Okay, let's try that. Is that better?
Yeah. Barely.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, winning. All right. So I have updates for you. Like Sarah, we are looking to add quite a few positions on to the west side of the Shasta Trinity. The forestry tech hiring event is underway right now. It opened today and ends on the 25th. We're looking to add quite a few positions in our veg management side of things, as well as adding positions for specialists. So the current updates I can give you is we also have a detailer, a deputy district ranger to help manage the South Fork and the TRMU, and that's Ben Sundahl. His normal position is as the forest safety officer. So we're looking forward to getting him on board and having him help us out over here on the west side. He'll start March 27th. We have a detailer coming in behind Frank Boxenbaum, who is helping us out at the NRA up at the lake. He has decided to pursue other avenues, and we thank him for his efforts. But we have a detailer coming in behind him. As you know, Sally and Mike are on details. Those are expected to finish up in May, and we'll get them back on board full time. So we've hired a forester, an SAF forester, an 11 on the west side of the forest. And in the hiring event, we have asked for up to 14 positions for the west side. That's for the 2 units combined, as well as the NRA on the west side, the Trinity NRA. So, and that also includes trails crew, volunteer coordinator, as well as some support for some OHV and grant and agreement management. Let's see, that the recreation jobs are expected to open April 3rd and run through April 17th. Those are the recreation jobs. As I said, the forestry jobs are open now through the 25th, and those are the forestry tech jobs. Looking at the notes, there were some questions about the front desk on the South Fork unit, and we do have an emergency hire in place there, James, who's doing a good job at answering phone calls and providing customer service there. Let's see. A big deal for us is we got approval to pursue a GS 12 program manager on the west side to help oversee all of the rec opportunities on the west side. So that got approved through the zone. We'll be moving forward with getting that filled. I know there's a lot of updates. Let's see. I think that's the highlights. I may have if I've forgotten anyone, Sally, go ahead and jump in there. And we're also looking at pursuing strengthening up our agreements and things with some of our partners. So yeah, things are looking up. We're excited to be looking to add these positions. They're often long overdue. And we started these conversations, I think, back in January. And the agency has rolled out these different hiring events and opportunities kind of in a phased approach. And so, as I said, forestry is open now, forestry technicians, and with the rec hiring expected to begin April 3rd and run through the 17th.
Carol.
So Tara, that's a lot of positions. I'm just trying to sort out how many are actually rec positions on the west side. So I heard a trails crew, and I heard approval for a GS 12 rec manager on the west side. What else is coming to the west side? I mean, I think the whole collaborative would be interested more in the vegetation management and the forestry people, but I'm interested in rec positions. Can you help me clarify that?
Yes, ma'am. So as I said, the 12 has already been, that one's a done deal. We just have to get it flown and get it filled. And then, as Sarah said, we've requested 14 positions on the west side in recreation. Now that doesn't mean requested, doesn't mean granted, but we've been getting a lot of support from the forest, and the agency as a whole has recognized some of the challenges with the temporary hiring, and this solution seems to make some of these positions more permanent, seasonal, is well supported. And these are the positions we've asked for on the west side, is 14 positions for recreation for the west side. So that's the South Fork, the TRMU, as well as the Trinity side of the NRA, working with Sarah to make sure we meet those staffing needs.
It's great.
Do you want to know the breakdown, Carol? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, just, I just was kind of crossing off the veg management and all that stuff. So 14 rec positions and what have been requested for the west side, permanent, seasonal, I guess, permanent, temporary, the whole bit.
So it's the permanent, seasonal, and permanent full-time. So yes, that's what we've requested. And as I said, we're expecting some of those jobs to come out, whichever ones make the final approval, final cut, April 3rd.
Good luck. Thank you.
Any questions at this point for Sarah and Tara? I just have one, Tara. Mike, I don't know that everybody knows what's going on at the ranger level on the west side. So you kind of touched on it briefly in your introduction of yourself. Maybe let everybody know what's going on with the ranger position recently.
Absolutely, Pat. Thank you for that. So as many of you know or have deduced, Chris Losi has left the Forest Service and is no longer the ranger on the South Fork Management Unit. And so with all of this, with all of the hiring and all of the program management aspects and the increased forest management on the west side, we are trying out having a one district ranger with a deputy in place to see if that can help us kind of align with those the national, the regional, and the forest priorities, and to help us get more done on the ground and provide some of that consistency and leadership. And along those lines, and I know Carol said, you know, this is definitely a rec focused call, but we've increased our capacity for planning, which, as you know, anything that we do is kind of tied back to that planning. So in an effort to just kind of have real clear priorities on what we're doing and some consistency in leadership for the west side, we're trying out this model of having one district ranger and a deputy district ranger, in addition to adding the GS-12 position for recreation to provide some higher level program management, and as well as another 12 has been approved to sit over kind of that planning piece as well. So as I said, we're looking at putting more planners and more people more boots on the ground and more planning capacity to get more done here in Trinity County and to provide just some consistent leadership and clear priorities. Does that answer your question, Pat? Does that address it for you?
I think that gives everybody a sense of where you're headed. Okay. Sally, do you have things to add to West Side on staffing kind of things? You're muted.
Sorry, Alex walked in. So we are going to be losing our lake patrol, and the forest has decided to fill that position as a permanent full-time instead of a permanent seasonal. So I'm really hoping that that will help with recruitment and retention in that position, because it is critical to having lake operations, having someone in that position with a boat license. And then Logan McLaren starts on Monday as a rec tech, permanent year-round rec tech. So those were two updates that I had.
Okay, great. Any questions? Anything else on kind of this staffing issues? If not, I don't remember the why, but community meetings in the spring of 2022. I think that might be Tara.
I'm sorry, what was that, Pat?
So the next agenda item was community meetings in the spring of 2022.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about that. So we are looking at having community meetings. April 5th will be the first one, and it will be in the hall there at Trinity Center from 5 to 7:30. The second one will be the 6th in Weaverville at the Performing Arts Center from 5 to 7:30. And the third will be, what did I say, the 5th, 6th, the 7th in Burnt Ranch. We'll be looking to get that, the same thing, 5 to 7:30. And the purpose of the meetings is to kind of not only give the public a chance to comment on what they think the priorities are in Trinity County, but and also explain what we've been working on, and hear clearly from the public, you know, what areas they think are our priorities and areas they're concerned about, from a hazardous fuels point of view, as well as recreation and other concerns that are really important to the people of Trinity County. So I wanted to have these meetings to give folks a chance to weigh in and participate in the process and help us identify a clear path moving forward. As I said, a lot of important changes going on the Shasta Trinity and the Forest Service as a whole, and you know, getting staffed up and and ready to do more on the ground and implement more forest treatments and provide better recreation opportunities that's important to us, and I want to hear from the public. So I also, now that I have the South Fork Management Unit as well, we'll be scheduling meetings in Hay Fork and High and Palm, and I'll be doing that with get that set up with the South Fork Management Unit staff to get those dates out to all of you as soon as I can.
Okay, Carol.
So I was just wondering for the Trinity Center meeting, if Sarah or Jose would be attending, because I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of questions about, you know, campgrounds and lake stuff and all that, everything. So are you guys going to be able to come?
Yes, one of us will be present at the Trinity Center meeting.
Great, thank you.
So
We're not planning to attend the other two.
right. So I'm thinking about this agenda item when I put it on. I think part of it was also, I think at a recent Board of Supervisors meeting, Jeremy Brown mentioned something about community and recreation roundtable meetings that are supposed to be happening also. So are those the same as these community meetings or something different? Sarah, you're not here. Or
Those
Tara.
are,
Yeah, I would go.
sorry, Tara.
No, you go, because I'm not as familiar with the meeting that Pat just described with that Supervisor Brown brought up.
So my understanding is that those community and partner roundtables are focused on the 10 strategy. The invitations and a lot of management for those events is coming out of our regional office. So unfortunately, I don't have information that I can share with you about those events because they haven't shared that with the local units yet. But more to come, I would guess.
Okay,
When I will share.
More related to the 10-year strategy than to recreation. Well, I do know a little bit more. I know that Nick Gillette can't join us for the full collaborative meeting on the 18th because he was invited to a roundtable discussion at the regional level on the 10-year strategy. So anyway, so we know at least that much.
So Jeremy was not quite.
Jeremy was a little inaccurate, thinking that it was focused on recreation.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for Forest Service line officers? Do you have anything to add?
Not necessarily at this moment. Thank you
Okay.
for asking though.
Yeah. Then the next thing on the agenda, because it always seems like we talk a lot about the west side on the Forest Service, but Laura, how about some BLM updates?
Yeah, sorry. I put some stuff in the chat, but yeah, not honestly a whole lot to report staffing wise. I'm thinking in my brain that it's very stable, but I'm not going to put that out in the world. So we're doing pretty good. We are kind of in the same process as the Forest Service where we're being asked to look at staffing up, which is always a fun conversation. We're maybe a little behind the Forest Service in that process though. So I don't have exact numbers or kind of what that will be, but hopefully we'll have some more, maybe 2 more rec positions in the future, which would be like full-time rec positions, which would be really awesome for us. Other than that, we don't have, all that much going on. I mean, our RMP is kind of always hanging out there. We've got caught up in some headquarters smoothness, I guess is the way to put it. So we're kind of in the same place we were last time I spoke with you guys, but hopefully soon we'll have more info on our public meetings, and we'll have our notice of intent for the EIS published in the Federal Register. So that kind of kickstarts a more formal process where we've been in kind of a pre-planning process for a while. Yeah, I think that's
for new positions. You're competing through this kind of the state office. All the areas are competing in California, submitting proposals probably to the state office.
Yeah, we've basically been asked to take a look at like what would what would your dream staff look like with the coming workload? And we've taken a look at that, and that's not to say we'll always have the funding to fill those out, but it's been nice to kind of think what sort of recreation resources we could really use. But yes, it will go up through the state and have to get approved, and then pending, infrastructure, bill money, and that sort of stuff, we'll do some hiring.
Yeah, go ahead,
Could I
Jill.
be reminded, Laura, and I can't see on the screen, Laura, can I please be reminded, you mentioned an EIS, what project is that for?
Oh, that's our resource management plan. It's like the forest plan. We're in the process of revising it. We've been in the process of revising it for quite a while. Like I said, we've kind of been in this pre-planning stage, and hopefully soon we'll be in the kind of formal public meetings, public comments, starting the EIS, that sort of thing.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is a plan that you're doing not only the Reading office, but with the Eureka office, the Arcata office, doing one big
Yes.
plan for the northern state.
Yep.
And then I was going to ask briefly, a while ago, you presented to us the business plan and
Yes.
how that is coming along.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we've stalled a little bit because FLRIA, which you heard us talk about then, I don't know what that acronym stands for, but it's the law that talks about recreation management. And that law requires us to get a business plan approved by a resource advisory council or resource advisory committee. Currently, the BLM does not have a quorum on our RAC for various reasons, including the recent recall election in Shasta County. So we don't have a quorum, so we can't get it approved. So we've been thinking creatively and reached out to the Forest Service, and hopefully we'll be able to present that to a Forest Service RAC. And we have our headquarters and stuff says that there is precedent for doing this kind of in both directions. So they don't anticipate any issues with doing that, but we still need to work out the specifics about when and exactly who and things like that.
Yeah, Tara, you want to add anything to that?
Oh, just we really support anything we can do to help BLM, and happy to take that on with our RAC, Pat, as you know.
Yeah, and we're looking, Laura, at potentially having a RAC meeting the 4th Monday in April or the 2nd Monday in May.
Okay. Yeah, we can make that work. I think our public affairs officer, Jeff Fontana, was going to reach out to you, Pat.
I sent Jeff an email.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll get that kind of on the books, and yeah, hopefully get it moving again.
Yeah, okay, great. Any questions for Laura? How did touring the state director go?
It went well, I think. Yeah, thank you for those of you who came out to the community forest. Our state director came through from Arcata over to Reading, so we stopped in Weaverville and saw some community forest stuff, and then took a look at our Steiner Flat campground and really got her buy-in for our business plan and kind of addressing our issues there at Steiner Flat. So that was really good. And then we showed her around some restoration sites down in Shasta County the next day. So yeah, it was a good visit, and she seemed very supportive of what we were doing up there. So
Cool. Good. Okay, if nothing else for BLM, then on to the NRA lake concessionaire update on the RFP. Sarah, I think that'd be kind of your ball in your court.
Yep. And you would think I could have been preparing this whole time. And yet somehow I didn't, even though I have the agenda in front of me. So let me just pull up my notes real quick. And
Want to come back to it?
no, I just got the notes. I'm good to go.
Okay.
Okay. So I think from our last meeting, Probably the most important updates are that we do have some site visits scheduled, and the Trinity side is going to be April 29th. And this is all going to go out in a letter to interested parties, and the Trinity Collaborative is on that mailing list. So when we have the official letter go out, you guys will get a copy of that letter with all these dates and the official information. The dialogue around insurance is still ongoing. As you are all aware, there are challenges with getting fire insurance in California, and that includes challenges getting fire insurance for our recreation sites. So that conversation is still ongoing, including all the way up to the Washington office, because some of it's, just a national issue that they need to weigh in on and how they want us to approach that. So I'm sure we are going to go down to the wire on that dialogue and discussion in terms of what actually appears in the prospectus as a requirement for insurance. So that's really the critical thing that's in the works. But other than that, we should be good to go with publishing the prospectus within the next couple weeks.
Okay, great. Any questions? Cool. And so this April 29th field visit would be open to collaborative members to be on that trip? Or why are we getting a letter?
So you're getting a letter because you're an interested party in the process and you guys have wanted to know about the prospectus. I would also say that if you know of any locals who would be interested in bidding, we would want your help networking that. So please share it broadly. We know you guys are very tied into the community, and this would be an instance where we want this information to be known as an opportunity to manage those recreation facilities.
But it would still be both Shasta Lake and Trinity Lake, right? There's somebody could not submit a proposal for just Trinity side.
That's correct. It is still both sides.
Okay, great. I'm not gonna do it. That one I can say no to. So boat ramps and marinas. So update on Minersville.
Yes, so I did have a meeting on Minersville just yesterday. Our engineering staff is going to do their darndest to get the design contract into our contracts and agreement staff by the April 1st deadline. So I would say that is probably the date we are looking at for something going into contracting. Contracting within the Forest Service, as we all know, is a little bit of a black box. So you put it into the black box, and then time and process and those acquisition people do their magic, and then a contract comes out the other side in the best case scenario of that. So we'd probably be looking at a contract for that design to come out close to the end of the fiscal year based on that April 1st timeline.
That would be some third-party contractor then, right?
Yeah, it would be a contractor like an architecture and engineering firm. And then they would take the concept that the Department of Boating and Waterways worked on and the Forest Service worked on, and actually turn it into a real engineering design, like with the stamp and everything, and cost estimates. And that would be what we could use to kick off our NEPA and planning process for Minersville. Because we need to know what we're analyzing before we can analyze it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Any questions on that from anybody? No.
And for clarity, and maybe this helps with the big picture, because sometimes the bureaucracy is one piece and the emotional piece is the other. I feel as positive about our progress in Minersville as I ever have. So this is like, we're in a pretty good place. We have some momentum. It's still a bureaucratic and tricky process to navigate, but we do have a path, and that's really good.
Okay,
Thank you for, like I said, I really appreciate you pushing this rock up a hill. It's not easy, and so thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's important.
so then, the next thing on the agenda in boat ramps and marinas was status of marina concessionaire permit transfers and insurance issues.
That was what we just talked about.
That's what we already talked about. Okay. So we're done with that. Post-fire. So we had a lot of suggestions for things to talk about. So the first one, as I wrote it down, was post-fire recovery for all the listed fires from the last couple of years. What's been done, what's planned for this summer, and what is planned for further out kind of implementation beyond this field season. And I'm not sure who's the best person to tackle that. You rock, paper, scissors, and
That'd be Sally. Sally will take the lead on that.
Okay. So we have been implementing the August Phase 1 project. The logging down in the Forest Glen area is almost all wrapped up. Cliff Piper, our assistant rec officer, Chris Parker, our maintenance worker, and one local maintenance worker temp have been working there very diligently and essentially have Forest Glen ready to open on the normal start date. It's been a huge amount of work. So if you see them around town, please thank them. They still have a little bit of water line issues to deal with that were damaged during the logging, but that one is slated to open as normal. We have the vault toilet contract ready to be implemented for new CXT toilets, ready to go in April, working with the contract officer and the contractor on that. And that will be in Hellgate and Scott Flat will each get a new CXT toilet. The rest of the recovery in those two campgrounds has been delayed because of staffing and then the logging that took longer than anticipated. But we have 5 weeks of California Conservation Corps time to work in those two campgrounds with our maintenance worker. And so that will continue to take place this spring. The South Fork National Recreation Trail is indefinitely closed because of a burned crib wall. That is slated to be repaired in the future. It has received disaster funding. So once we can get that into an agreement with the California Conservation Corps, our plan is to implement that project in the next 2 years. So that is most of the things happening with the August fire. The cabin is up and running and will open as scheduled. We are hoping to have Hellgate and Scott Flat open by next year. There's still a lot of recovery work in those two campgrounds. The red salmon fire, as you are well aware, was primarily in the Trinity Alps wilderness. We worked on the emergency bear work that needed to get done. And they also redecked 2 of the bridges in the new river drainage this past summer. We had Student Conservation Association and our local wilderness patrols out there working for the first half of the summer. There is some more trail work funded through the disaster funding. So we will be using that money to continue to keep the trails open as we get that into an agreement with a partner, which is not done yet. And then we will also be using that money to install the directional interior signs that were purchased with post-fire infrastructure money. And those have already arrived. So we'll start working on those this summer. The McFarland fire didn't damage very much recreation infrastructure, except for the water line at Post Creek. And then it essentially burned Rat Trap Gap to the ground. So we are in the initial planning phases of that. There is money slated in the disaster funding to repair that site. The bathroom burned to the ground, which will have to go into contracting. And then all the 6 campsites and the corrals will need to be reconstructed and the hazard trees mitigated. So that's the biggest work with that. We also had 2 historic toilets burn at North Begum and Begum. The repair plan calls for just filling those toilets in with inert material and no other repair work. They are not considered developed rec sites at this point, but we want to get rid of that safety issue there. The monument fire, most of the hazard trees were assessed along 299 and felled during fire and post-fire by Eric Quartz and his falling teams. There is quite a bit of trail work and bear work that needs to happen up in the Alps. Our plan was to have a 4-person trail crew up there, but temp staffing decided differently. So we will be having 1 temp 1039 employee and 1 emergency hire working up there to try to open up the trails and deal with any emergency erosion issues. There is future funding in the disaster pot of money, and we'll get that money into an agreement with a partner to have continued trail work up there to keep those trails open and to install any burned interior directional signs. The big beast that we are going to have to tackle is recovering from the river fire. As you're well aware, I think 180 miles of trails were impacted by that fire. Over a dozen trailheads, if I had to guess, and Goldfield campground burned to the ground. So there is a significant pot of money to repair those sites. But as you're all aware, contracts and agreements and implementation with our own employees is very difficult with such short staffing that we currently have. So hopefully this rec event and the jobs that we put in for will be able to help with the recovery process in the Coffee Creek and surrounding drainages. We are working with the Pacific Crest Trail Association. They will be out there this summer trying to keep that trail open using funds from GAOA that they had previously been awarded. We will need to be doing NEPA and 106 on the McFarland, the monument in the river for any projects that are going to be implemented in those areas. So Tara is working with that to get a team together to see what's needed and to get those surveys and documents ready to go so we can implement as quickly as we can. Are there any questions about our post-fire recovery so far?
That was a lot. That's a lot going on. Some questions, anybody?
It's just, I'll save my question to talk about the Trinity Journal information.
Yeah. So just for like information, we had to pull our wilderness patrols off Wilderness Patrol this last year to help implement some of the partners who were out there working on the trails. So there wasn't a lot of Wilderness Patrol happening last year. We're hoping that we can have the Wilderness Patrols doing Wilderness Patrol work. But we just don't quite know about that yet. I feel there's going to be a lot of use in the Canyon Creek drainage, the Swift Creek drainage, and the Stewart Fork drainage, given the fires to the north. So we are trying to get ahead of that use. But we'll see how that goes this summer. Forest closures. So right now we have a tentative plan that's going to offer pretty basic services at our developed recreation sites. Part of the staffing update that Tara didn't give was that we were not successful in hiring any temps to come on before Memorial Day. Typically, we have at least 6 temp employees that start in April to start weed whacking, doing hazard tree assessments, mitigating hazards, making sure the campgrounds are fire safe, painting, doing all the stuff to open our campgrounds. And we just don't have that staff this year. With Frank leaving and Logan coming, essentially we will have 1 rec tech between now and Memorial Day on our books. We were successful in hiring a detailer in behind Frank, but he will be new to the area and new to being a developed rec tech. He's coming from North Carolina. He is a Job Corps member, and he is really excited to come and do this work. So that's half the battle. He wants to come and he wants to work. So Logan will be training him, and they'll most likely be working in a pair out in the field. So Matthew, which is his name, doesn't get lost out there. So our plan, I'm going to try to share my screen. I am not a Zoom person. I am a Teams person.
Hit the green arrow.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get my my spreadsheet correct first. So, okay. Okay. So the update on the NRA is that the normal concessionaire sites are all scheduled to be open on their normal opening dates. Sarah did not see any reason why they would not be opened as scheduled. Now they do have a low water plan when the lake gets below 70 feet, which would impact Trinity River and Eagle Creek. Preacher Meadow is no longer on the low water plan, so that would remain open regardless of lake level. Okie dokie. Let me know when you can see my
So
spreadsheet.
The two that were impacted were Trinity River and what else?
Eagle Creek.
Eagle Creek, okay. So that by impacted, you mean if the water level in the lake is below, more than 70 feet below the dam, those are closed?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe they open during hunting season only.
Okay.
Your spreadsheet is up, Sally.
Okay, so talking about the NRA first, given that we will no longer have a lake patrol until we can hire one permanently and get them trained up with a boat license, we're going to intend to keep the boat and campgrounds closed. With the lake level so low, we have found that many boaters do not like hiking on lake shores for extended periods of time. So we really don't think that will impact the recreation use at the lake. All the campgrounds on the shorelines run by SRC will be available to them. Because of the driving distance and our staffing, we will also be keeping Jackass Spring and Clear Creek Campground closed at least through June 1st. And I guess I should caveat all of this with, this is our plan to get through Memorial Weekend. And then after Memorial Weekend, we will reassess what we can open, what feedback we're getting from the public. Did we get any more temps to come on in phase 4 of temp hiring? But this is the tentative June 1st plan. Okay, so the yellow ones we're going to be tentatively opening. So that would be Tan Bark Picnic Area. It's right on the highway. Definitely feel it's important to have that open to the public. We are going to keep the bathrooms closed at Trinity Vista and Lewiston Vista. They don't get a lot of use anyways, so it would be good to get those off our books at least until June 1st. We intend to have both of the cabins open as regularly scheduled. This means we need to get the water line fixed at Post Creek. There's not potable water at Post Creek, but it does serve the toilet out there. Okay, so South Fork, continuing with South Fork, we are not going to be opening up Basin or Deer Lick Springs campgrounds. Tom Head Saddle was impacted by the fires. We don't really have a plan or funding to fix any damage that happened out there, so that's kind of on the back burner to fix. Slide Creek and Big Slide will both be open. There's no way to lock them. We're hoping that the firefighters on the South Fork can help us patrol and clean bathrooms and pick up trash at those sites. Hellgate Campground will remain closed, but we will be opening up Forest Glen probably the middle of May, and that will have potable water at it.
So Sally, the column on the left that says YN, is that yes, no?
Oh, no, that's if it has a gate.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep. Okay, so we are at, okay, Scott Flat's going to remain closed. A lot of these sites we can't physically close, but we're going to at least do a press release that says they're closed, and hopefully people choose to not go there. So Gemmel will be closed. Philpott will be closed, and Natural Bridge will be closed. Gemmel and Natural Bridge don't have gates, but and I don't even think Gemmel we can lock the toilets. So you know, they're going to be closed on paper, and we're going to ask the firefighters to patrol those areas just to make sure that there's nothing that needs to be addressed at those sites. We're going to be keeping Little Rock picnic area open. Rat Trap Gap burned to the ground. So that is our offerings on the South Fork. Hayden Flat Campground along the 299 corridor. For sure, we're going to have Lower Hayden open. If it seems like we can get the hazard tree assessments and mitigated in Upper Hayden, we will do our best to get Upper Hayden Flat open as well. Big Bar Campground is no longer a campground, that's a picnic area. Big Flat Campground we will keep open. Denny Campground will be closed. Burnt Ranch will remain closed. Ripstein will remain closed. Hobo Gulch might open. We've done hazard tree assessments out there, and it doesn't really get a lot of use that we need to deal with. So we might open that one, not quite sure yet. Pigeon Point will be fully open to the public. Heading to the North Lake, Horse Flat will remain closed. Goldfield burnt to the ground, and Scott Mountain, which I don't know why it's not on here. It will be closed on paper. We will do our best to get that one open before the PCT through hikers get to that location. Like I said, Pigeon Point will be open. White's Bar, we're going to remain closed, but with the intention of putting porta potties out for Memorial Weekend. Big Flat River Access, we will keep open. The group campgrounds along 299, we intend to have open. We were going to keep the Hayden Flat group sites up above closed. And we're still kind of up in the air what we're going to do with Canyon Creek Trailhead. The use, I'm anticipating the use to be much higher because it's one of the few unburned drainages in the Alps now. So we got to figure out how to keep that bathroom opened and serviced. New River and East Fork of the New River, we don't really go out to very often anyways. And the Stewart Gap bathroom is actually managed by the concessionaire. It's part of the campground up there. We also have Swift Creek, which is not on this list, that has a CXT toilet. Hoping we can get one of the engines to head out there maybe once a week. So this plan is really contingent on our firefighters being available to help. If they're not, we'll have to reassess some of those outlying locations. The goal of this plan is to provide clean, safe recreation for our public. We definitely don't want to be known for having sites that are open, that the bathrooms are disgusting and the bears are getting into the trash. So we don't need to get into this now, but if you have any comments of sites that maybe you don't see as a priority to have open and you would prefer to have other ones open, I'm definitely open to suggestions. But over Memorial Weekend, we will only have 2 employees working. So,
How do we present this information to the public in the recreation guide that Trinity Journal publishes? I mean, because do we say, check the website and see if it's open? These are the ones that might be open, might be closed. I mean, how do we?
So you know me and the website, Carol, right? We are just so short-staffed. I would not send them to the website. I would have them call our district ranger office to see what's open. I think that's going to be the best up-to-date information is through our front desk staff. And we will make sure that they are in the loop. We are also intending to do a press release, probably, May 1st, as to like what the firm plan is. And I would hope that, you know, all of the other Facebook sites that I'm not a part of in the North State can help us share that message. And I'm open to any other suggestions.
Yeah, because I mean, a press release, I mean, how many visitors that are coming here are gonna look at a press release? I mean, you're talking about people coming from, you know, the Bay Area and stuff, they don't read they won't read the press release, but they might pick up the recreation guide that's like at the general store, you know, there's stacks of them and stuff, and they look at that recreation guide and they go, okay, this trail looks nice, this is a day hike, this is a backpacking trip, this is a, you know, whatever. They're looking at that recreation guide, so if the recreation guide doesn't have, I mean, how do you put that information in there?
I mean, at the beginning, can a story be written that says, you know, this area has experienced wildfires and,
Well,
you know, essentially just to tell them that they need to be calling to see what's open before they drive to the sites.
I did talk, so I have met with the recreation, or talked to the Trinity Journal staff that's writing the recreation guide. And I told them that I would write an article that says, you know, if you see a sign that says this trail is closed, this is why it's closed, and this is why you shouldn't like hike there anyway, because here are the hazards, you know, so I am trying to, you know, write the article that at least lets people know if stuff says it's closed, this is why, and this is what you should do.
Yeah.
But what the journal's looking for is, you know, and likewise, you guys need to be figuring out how to direct people to the safer trails. I mean, if you anticipate that people are gonna be going to Swift Creek and Stewart's Fork and Long Canyon, you know, then we need to know that, you know, and to write it that way so that, you know, how do we list, you know, how do we get the information across to the public? These are the places you should be going, you know? Anyway, I'm just really struggling with people that are gonna be coming, picking up their rec guides, and all they say is call the front desk.
I mean, we are in an unprecedented situation, Carol. I hope you realize this, right? 5 large fires and no staff.
From you guys.
So we are hopefully going to have PAO staff at our supervisor's office that will be keeping the website updated. You know, our front desk right now does not have that capacity. She's a one-woman show. She can't be keeping the website up to date. So we're going to be relying on our supervisor's office to take care of that for us as we open sites. I mean, if between now and June 1st, if we want to, you know, I'll work with the line officers and we will come up with that hard list of what is open until June 1st. You know, we can have that to put into the, that article, what is open, at least for the developed recreation sites. And then, you know, that can be front and center. And then it can say, you know, after June 1st, call the ranger station. You know, these are typically open, but our typical offerings are just not happening this year.
The other thing is we'll definitely have the kiosk we have in front of our office. We'll have, that way it's available after hours, before hours. We'll have that kiosk in front of our office, updated with the most current information as well.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't stop there. A lot of people go, you know, to the North Lake or something, and they're getting the information from the general store. And now the Coffee Creek store is gonna be open this year. And then, you know, the visitor center is open on weekends, and we're handing them the rec guide.
Well, so why don't we, this seems like it's not insurmountable. It's not, what if we just put out our information sandwich boards like we do during the fire? There's no reason we couldn't do that and strategically place those at some of the key locations that you've identified. And that would probably be one good way to try to get the information out to people in real time.
So you'd say in the rec guide, look for a sandwich board or the kiosk or call the front desk?
Carol, I'm not sure, you know, I think in the rec guide, we're just going to have to say that it's that the evaluations are still being done, that they should probably check somewhere locally before, committing to any one trail or trailhead. And then I think if we, realizing this is Trinity County and just doing the, the social media isn't a solution, but I think running having our trap lines out that we typically have for fires and having some more of those types of, information stations established across the county will probably be a good backup plan for us to take. We'll do the best we can to get the best, most current information to the recreation guide. But I think it's really important, as Sally said, that we make sure that they check somewhere locally. So we'll also make sure the Trinity County Visitor Center is up to date, that they have all the information that we have. And we'll do the best we can to get the most current information into the areas that people are going to be frequenting. Just like you said, they're going to stop at the store in Trinity Center a lot, probably.
And those links, they go to the website or they go to the rec guide, which neither one of those are going to be accurate. So how about this? How about when I meet with the Trinity Journal, I say, we're going to give you a hard list of what's open, and that's the concessionaire stuff, and that is some of the trails that aren't under forest closure, like Swift Creek, Stewart's Fork, Canyon, whatever, Canyon Creek. If you can give me a hard list of the trails that you know are going to be open, we can present it that way in the rec guide. These are the things we know are open. And then we can say, and here are the things which may be open, the ones after June 1st, but check locally. And then a separate list of here are the things that we know are closed. Based on what I read in the bar report, like pretty much everything up Coffee Creek, is closed until you get to Big Flat, and then Big Flat campground's open, and some of those trails up there, I think, are open. But, so can we at least divide it into hard closures, not going to be open, check on what might open up later in the season? Does that work?
What's the drop dead date for the rec guide?
So I'm supposed to meet with them the end of this month, and they send it to the printers in the middle of April, and it comes out in May.
Okay, well, I'm happy to involve Ruth, our Forest PAO, because she'll be a key component as to how we communicate it and what we should communicate. So let me reach out to her, Carol, and come up with a strategic plan for the best way to share this information on some of these closures. And I will get back to you if that's okay. And Sarah and I obviously will meet as well and talk about how we want to message this and make sure we meet the time frame that you're needing.
Okay, and can you, Sally's been dealing with the website issues for years. She's listened to me, whine and whine. Is there a way to tell Ruth that it's really going to be important this year to have someone helping to keep the website updated, because a lot of people go there. And so that's going to be, I think, a critical information source, and Sally just needs help.
Absolutely. I can definitely share that concern, and we'll make sure we have a plan to keep that information current, and not just not just at the beginning of the season, but throughout the season. And I know we identified some of our needs in public information sharing during our big look at our staffing overall. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate that feedback, and I think it's going to be really critical. We have a plan to make sure we're providing accurate and timely information to the public. That's really important to what we do.
And just one last question. So under the bar report, they're supposed to be doing all the signage of what is closed. Do you anticipate that you're going to have this trail is closed due to fire and hazard trees or whatever signs up by the time people are hiking?
So those are still in contracting. We don't even physically have those signs yet, Carol.
I was afraid of it.
Yeah, so it's also a big concern of mine, because we have not had a single person get eyes on the trails to know if there's significant safety issues, washouts, down trees, on the trails themselves. So our goal, is to get, so our wilderness patrols are coming on in the next 3 weeks. And our goals are to get them out on those trails as soon as possible. So, you know, there's one issue of having safe parking lots, right? That is our prerogative, that is our policy, because those are considered developed sites. To open a trailhead, we need to make sure that there's no hazards at that site in that fire footprint. And then essentially it's up to the wilderness user to make sure they are safe on those burned trails, unless the forest decides to keep them closed because of significant safety issues or hazards or natural resource issues. So like for one example is the first bridge at the North Fork of the Coffee Creek burnt down. So that trail for sure needs to stay closed because there's no way to safely cross the creek at the moment. So we don't have, since the fire ended, we have not had the staff to even go out there and assess what's going on. So until that happens, Carol, you know, I know we want to commit to this rec guide, but we're not going to meet that timeline with where the snow's at and where our wilderness patrols are. So I think in that rec guide, just pushing people towards, oh God, that's going to be so crowded in those parking areas. Swift Creek, Stewart Fork, and Canyon Creek, and East Weaver.
You could do Long Canyon.
The Four Lakes Loop didn't burn in the fire? No, it
I mean,
didn't.
Long Canyon, if you're going up, well, I mean, if you put Long Canyon in as a day hike to go up to Bowerman Meadow or, you know, Lake
Okay.
Anna or something.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the trail's at least safe for a while on that one, but just encouraging people to go there and not really talking about specific closures, but just talking about hazards within the fire footprints might be the way to go in that, the rec guide, because we don't know exactly what's going to stay closed, what's going to be open at this time.
So do you think it'd be useful to have a map of the fire footprint in the rec guide? It says,
I don't think it could hurt.
Your trail, if you were thinking about going on a trail inside this circle.
But how far back do we include the 2018 fires that are now having down trees everywhere? And no, yes, at least the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It might also be a good idea to have people know what to look out for, like if they don't know what a hazard tree is, identifying what could be a hazard tree and making sure that people aren't parking under one or camping under one too.
Yeah, that was part of what, I mean, the rec guide normally wouldn't include that, but that's why I offered to kind of write that up this year, was to exactly answer that, you know, what to look for. Okay, so I lied, I did have one more question. So are you gonna have a map on the forest closures posted on the website?
So right now, the forest closure has expired, and Tara is working on what needs to go in to a forest closure this summer. And you know, Mike and I need to get with Tara and talk about potential issues if we just do an opening. You know, what can happen, what could happen with the public, especially inexperienced hikers, if we open up all those areas. So we don't have one yet to include, but we typically post forest closures outside our offices, and they're on our website.
Yeah, well, that's what I noticed on the website. It says the forest closure expired. So right now people could assume that the whole forest is open. So that's why I'm hoping that you guys can put an updated map on there.
So I can speak to that. So, you know, right now we're sitting at, most of the trails are inaccessible. So that bought us a little bit of time. And then, as Sally said, you know, as you guys unfortunately know firsthand, that the window between the forest, the fire being contained and the arrival of the snow that we didn't end up getting enough of, we're pretty close together. So getting a good assessment in and then coming out with with a really good press release and public information campaign to let people know what's open, what's closed, and what what are some watch outs. The safety messaging that goes along with that is going to be key. And I've already had 2 meetings with our public affairs person, and we're very aware that we're going to have to get that a really comprehensive, intentional messaging out prior to the start of the recreation season. So thank you, Carol. That's and the safety concerns that you bring up are very timely. And so just wanting to get that message put together and then get it out in every avenue that we possibly can.
So, Tara and Sally, do you want to see a draft of what Carol puts together, or are you comfortable with her?
Well, so what the Trinity Journal asked me for it, so if you remember the rec guide, they go through every single campground, they describe it, they describe day hikes, the trails. So what they asked for was just an update on the status of each of those. So, in the past, something like Stony Point Campground, when it was closed, it just said closed. So, and I think that, like I said, they're looking for either hard closures, where they would say closed, this is to be closed all year. They'll put closed on that campground or that trailhead or whatever. And this is, you can look at the rec guide where they go through all that stuff. They're looking for information on everything that they normally put in there. What's the updated information?
Yeah, so I'd like to like I said, get our public affairs person involved as well, and see if there's an avenue to put, to make sure people are aware that there was a fire. In the last 2 years, we've had significant fire activity on the west side, and what like somebody mentioned, the hazard trees and the things to watch out for, kind of red flags if you choose to hike through there, including the signage and gosh, in some places the trail itself may be hard to find. So there's definitely some messaging that has to go along with that. So yeah, I want to work together to get this through, to get a good product out there for the public. And I understand your concerns, Carol, and that it typically is this is open and that's closed, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for for opening later. We just, as we talked about at the beginning of this meeting, we do have some staffing plans that should come in later in the summer that will be able to give us the ability to provide more opportunities, more along the lines of our traditional opportunities in the future. So yeah, it's not, I wish I could tell you I wish this hiring event had happened in, February, but I'm just still really grateful that we have one coming. So happy to work with you, Carol, though, to get the right thing to the paper and also include our PAO folks, if that works for you.
I totally understand, that some of this is going to be, unknown, but so that's all I'm asking is, so the ones that we don't know, we put in the recreation guide and we say, this one may open later this year, check with whatever.
Yeah, or temporarily closed, something like that makes people know that, hey, there's a chance it could be open.
That's what I'm asking for. It's just a description of the different facilities that are normally listed in the rec guide. What's their status? Because you have people like at the Trinity Center Visitor Center, like I said, people are sitting there and someone comes in and goes, what's a good day hike? And so you're trying to figure out which ones, some of the ones that we used to send them to, all the ones up in Coffee Creek, now we're thinking probably not sending them there. So where else do we send them? They ask where can they go camping, well, okay, don't go to these campgrounds, and so those people they're like you said, they're using the rec guide and the website as their information. They're not calling the front desk down in Weaverville because it's closed on weekends. So how do you get that information to the visitors?
Okay, so
I don't want to keep, sorry.
We spent enough time on this. So I think you've got some ideas on how to proceed. I think in the chat, there's a Sally put up a website on how to hiking in those fire kind of areas. I know,
Okay, I can't.
I know, but. So.
How can I get that
So those of us who are
information?
live, Kelly, how do we access that?
Email it to Carol directly.
And that would be the easiest way to send the link out because I'm not on my laptop. This is.
No, Sally said she'll send it to me directly, and then I'll make sure it gets in the journal.
Okay, so I think we covered post-fire stuff. So Title II RAC, in the last couple of meetings, we talked about how is it, can we help coordinate with rangers and lead staff and the committee to develop proposals for the next round or rounds of Title II RAC projects. So on the one hand, it sounds like you guys have big pots of money from the infrastructure bill, but there are other things you probably are still that go unfunded that need help with. Maybe it's even doing NEPA, third-party NEPA. So I'm not sure how we best have that conversation and get ready for the next round of RAC.
So, I mean, last meeting, we talked about like us, how do we, the projects that we're kicking around from the recreation committee, like, toilet at the Spaghetti Bowl on the, Weaverville Community Forest Trail, or we talked about, trailhead improvements and, toilet at Long Canyon. How do we sit down with you guys and, brainstorm, okay, so what would be RAC proposals? Would it be doing NEPA for those things? We just want to integrate what we think, some of the projects we thought of with what you guys are thinking of and come up with a way to get some money for those projects.
So I guess I'll give my opinion. My staff is pretty tapped out in implementing projects. So having someone else take them as their projects to implement on our land under an agreement would be very helpful. Until we get more NEPA and heritage staff, I feel that it's going to be very difficult to get the NEPA done for those types of projects. And I fully support those two projects. I think they would be great additions and would help with a lot of our problems at those sites. Both ingress, egress for fire, natural resource issues with too many people at trailheads with no bathroom facilities. I think it could help with all of it. I'm thinking that, step one is going to be doing third-party NEPA and finding funding for that.
Yeah, that's what we talked about, was can we propose RAC projects where essentially we would request funding for third-party NEPA to do those projects.
And then to me, there's the question that there still is a commitment of agency staff time when there's third-party NEPA. Do you have the capacity, have somebody, lots of different levels. One is you get RAC proposal approved, and then Grants and Agreements is going to want a local person to be the project manager. And then there's time that goes into developing the agreement and then managing the agreement and signing off on invoices. There's that piece of labor that needs to be accommodated. And then some sort of supervision or review of the third-party NEPA team that is doing what they do. So I'd hate to have the RAC fund something and then several years later still be waiting for the Forest Service to catch up to the third-party NEPA team.
And for the only other thing that I would add to that would be the fact that with, consecutively smaller pots of money, and the expense of third-party NEPA, I would be concerned that any of those would actually fly in front of the rack anyways. Because if you're only looking at $400,000 a year and it costs $100,000 to do NEPA for one bathroom, say, and that would be probably low, on the low end probably. I just don't, I wouldn't get your hopes up. I guess is my thinking on it.
So we were looking for feedback from the district rangers. I mean, how do you envision? Do you just assume you're not gonna apply for any RAC funding because you don't have any projects on the shelf? Or how much does it cost third-party NEPA to do a bathroom, and is that worthwhile asking for money for, just, how do you guys feel about getting RAC money? Can we help?
I think we've lost Tara, so that may be an issue here. I can certainly speak to the Trinity NRA and say that I would echo what Sally said. Wherever we can have a third party that's taking the lead on doing something that is covered under existing NEPA, or we can find an avenue for it to be covered under existing NEPA, that helps. But I mean, I think we've all had enough conversations on the rec committee about the planning timelines and the commitments of the ID team that I don't have space to add new RAC projects on the program of work if it needs NEPA. And I don't know the cost of third-party NEPA for things like bathrooms. That might be a watershed center question. But I don't know. So I think we had some good dialogue around Bowerman Barn, and certainly some of that we'll get to that later in the agenda. But those kind of specific areas where there's an existing community interest stewardship group, that's what we can, at least for the NRA, support.
So I had talked to Tara about the Long Canyon Trail improvements, Carol, how they're really needed up there with the use. And one of Tara's future projects is a fuels treatment projects north along Highway 3. And we talked about including the surveys at a minimum at that trailhead for future projects. So tying our program of work into what could be possible future RAC projects or possible infrastructure projects or possible GAOA projects, or just, hey, it burnt down, it has to be reconstructed projects because, it hasn't rained in months. So just trying to, Tara is really big on incorporating all program areas into larger NEPA projects. So, we might not be able to do a standalone NEPA project, but we could, while we're in that area, go to the public, right, during scoping and saying, well, what rec improvements do we want to see seen in this general area, and try to include it while all of our own specialists are out there already doing surveys. So tackled, but maybe not right away, maybe not next year's RAC, but as that Highway 3 project comes online, to include it then.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other project ideas? It is an alternative if you had some small projects that are ready to be implemented and aren't funded and don't have staff. I mean, are there just projects ready on the shelf? I mean, Carol mentioned that.
I don't have any projects on the shelf. We are implementing the WCF trails with private money. Kelly went for some trails money, so I think that's being addressed already. That's probably as good as we can with the pots of money. One project I talked to Kelly about for future RAC is maybe trying to ask for a small pot of money to deal with vehicle abatement on National Forest System lands. we have a pretty big issue of finding funding to cover the cost to remove those vehicles and to take them to whatever sites. So, you know, I don't know if that's something that Kelly's group would want to take on, but I see it as a need.
I propose that, and we're all also, we've been successful at acquiring funding for doing that type of work in the past through Cal Recycle.
Cool.
And
Okay.
so we're actually pursuing that separately, and you know what the appetite for something like that might be through them, just because it would save more money for the rack. But I mean, if that's certainly something that we would be willing to do and want to do. It's just a matter of whether or not, you know, Cal Recycle might be a better source of funding for that particular task.
And doesn't the county have a vehicle abatement officer?
So when it's on National Forest System lands, it's our responsibility though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's different.
So just drag them out. To the county right away. Okay. Well, people keep thinking about potential rack projects. And maybe there's one somewhere down the road in our next agenda item, which is an update from the field trip on the multi-use trail. So we had Sarah helped us organize a visit to Ross's trail segment near Stony Point. And who wants to kind of give, it seemed like there were some to-dos that were supposed to start happening, and I'm curious whether any of those have started happening to lead us to a meeting with Caltrans.
My outreach has not been fruitful yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to continue to try, you know,
Your outreach was to.
I had several contacts that were provided to me by either Ross or Cindy, or and I've got you know, my own contacts there. Tom March has been sort of helpful in pointing me in the right directions, but I have not received any return communications from Caltrans yet.
So that's kind of the key thing is getting them on board for sit down or visit out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ross.
I don't think that's first. I think we just start building the trail. And if I'm riding my road bike, I ride on the road all the way out there. You can ride on the road to top of Scott Mountain. But so there's no problem with that. And some people, when they start out, they go for a walk, they don't walk 100 miles. So if we build a 1 mile trail, there'll be people using there. There'll be families that camp in this campgrounds and set their kids off to ride the 1 mile trail. The lake trail that's out there now is only 4 miles long. And people camp there and bring their bikes and ride it. So the trail will get used. It's not against the law for us to run somebody to ride on the road. In some places, the lake is so close to the road, it negates having a trail that you're going to ride on the edge of the road. There's nothing wrong with riding on the road. And we prefer not to. You know, so we could build the trail up to that spot, and we can build the trail past that spot. What are we waiting for? And then when Caltrans sees the trail go up to it and away from it, they'll urge them, they'll push them along to keep those people off the side of the road. Not against the law to ride on the side of the road. In fact, it's not against the law for the bicyclists to take the whole lane and ride on the road. So what's the holdup?
So what's the holdup? So there's still the NEPA that needs to get done.
Before you
For
can build
building
the
the
trail.
trail. What's that?
Before you can build the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that was all done but not turned in or something.
No, so Sarah, we have specialist reports, but the stumbling block is the section over Stony Creek.
Yeah, I can speak to it, Pat. So I can't sign a decision saying we're gonna build a trail a certain way if it's actually another agency's jurisdiction to let us build the trail in that Stony Creek culvert, you know, area that we all stared down at. So I just, we can't move forward with the NEPA because the NEPA leads to a decision to build a trail a certain way. And that proposed design is something that we've gotten that feedback from Caltrans that they won't buy off on. So the design is like the sticking point.
I think what Ross is suggesting is maybe it's not a whole mile of trail that we're doing the NEPA on. We're doing the NEPA on the section that is on Forest Service land from the old turnout near Stewart's Fork up to that Stony Creek area, and then stopping it shorter than the original plan.
Okay, thank you. I was not understanding that we were discussing a proposed revision to the design to
Yeah.
remove that
Well,
piece.
I think we continue to work on that, but he's just saying, let's get the NEPA done for something.
When they built the highways across the United States, and they said, what about the Mississippi River? The whole thing didn't stop. They started building the highways from both ends, and then they solved the problem of the Mississippi River afterwards, you know? It didn't stop the whole project, or we'd be walking from New York to California.
So I think he's just suggesting if the specialist reports are done and are valid for areas that aren't controversial with Caltrans, is it viable to do NEPA on that?
What
I
about
think
when
it
we
could,
cross Stewart's Fork Bridge? There's no other way to ride across there. You're going to cross the Stewart's Fork Bridge. What's the difference? What's the difference if we go by Stony Creek on the road or we cross the Stewart's Fork Bridge? What's the difference?
so if the rec committee would like us to go down this path of doing NEPA for the shorter segment and just getting it done and then having this longer dialogue with Caltrans, what would be helpful for me is like, you guys vote through whatever voting mechanism you have. And then I get an email from one of the facilitators saying, we'd like to revise the proposal to start from this point and end at this point with some specific points identified. And then that's something I can say, okay, ID team, this is what the, I have to be able to say clearly, like, this is the collaborative's proposal, right? Like from this point to this point. And they're going to be satisfied with Forest Service moving this chunk forward through analysis and getting it permitted. So something like that would help me on the NEPA and decision side, because the Caltrans piece has been a real sticking point for my staff.
Right, okay.
Well, I would like to give Caltrans another week. I think that they can be contacted and, you know, come into this discussion. Sarah, you've had some communication with them, right, over the past months or whatever, so.
We could bring it up at the collaborative meeting.
Yeah, I think.
Brian Crane is working Caltrans. Maybe we should.
Yeah, we have some
We have some
personal contacts.
contacts of our own.
They're not the engineers, they're not the person that we need to talk to, but they might know who that person is, you know.
Yeah, and Brian Crane, he hadn't been with Caltrans in a while, right? City of Reading.
Yeah,
But
he might know
he's
who's
still
there.
an asset.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're gonna continue to try to get Caltrans engaged in a meeting, see where that goes, and then take up the shorter trail idea and subsequent to that. That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so just to reiterate my understanding, we're gonna stick with the current proposal and continue to try and engage Caltrans. I am
Yes.
not gonna revise the proposed action with my staff until I hear otherwise from the collaborative.
Correct.
We're
Cool.
not gonna give Caltrans a very long to respond. You know, we'll give them a week or, I'll be gone for a week. Give them a couple of weeks. And that's it. We start building the trail.
Okay. But after we get the
After we
need,
get the NEPA signed.
After we get the need decided.
right,
God forbid it's a user-built trail.
yeah. So, okay. So Sarah, the next thing we had, it had come up that there might be the idea of another field trip to go look at some of the fuels work around the camps. Is that something you're still interested in trying to do and trying to do it in April? Or when?
Yeah, I have a few dates that I can throw out, and then if you want to do a poll or something for the folks who aren't here, however we want this.
Maybe get some tentative dates to Kelly and he can do his spiffy barcode.
Yeah. So the dates that I would throw out would be April 21st, April 22nd, May 17th, and May 20th.
I'm sorry, that was May 17th.
May 17th and May 20th, yeah.
Well, May 20th, this should already be on your calendar, but that's the full collaborative meeting.
Oh, well then not May 20th. Thank you, Pat.
That's okay.
So I have the rec committee on my calendar, but don't have the full collaborative. So
It's
you
always,
put those dates on the agenda, don't you? Like all of the dates?
I do, but
it's always the week after the rec committee.
So the full collaborative always meets a week after the,
Okay.
rec committee, or the rec committee meets a week before the full collaborative.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for
Yeah.
my calendar failure there.
That's okay. Okay, so we'll work on that and you'll have whatever staff you think are appropriate to be a part of that. Are these hazardous enough trees now that we need hard hats?
I don't think so, but I'll have clarity on an email blast that I get to you guys with like a map and the sites and agenda and stuff once we actually have a date. I think what our tentative plan was to look at a total of, I'm trying to find my list here, like 3 kind of representative sites. And then if there was any particular area of interest from the community, I know we've talked in these meetings about airport before, and
Oh yeah, the airport issue.
So.
in our here, we
uh,
exactly what that issue is. So it might be good to look at it.
So I took to heart your comment at the trail field trip about, do we want to try to keep the focus narrow and get moving on these things, the hazardous trails versus, a broader project that might take longer. And there are issues with the airport, which mean it would take longer because my understanding is the county has to update their special use permit for the airport and that kind of stuff. So maybe, maybe we should take the airport issue off because you're right. I mean, these hazardous trees around the campsites, campgrounds, they need to be dealt with sooner rather than later. And if we fold in the airport, it would be later. So.
Okay.
Thank you for
Right.
that.
Yeah, okay, good. So Barwin Barn, we had 4 things kind of identified to kind of update on. So I think that's kind of a Sarah and Carol.
So did you have an update of when the contractor was gonna be, taking the roof off the barn?
Yes, I do. I'm looking for my Bowerman notes. My goodness, Sarah. Oh, I put it in my Trinity Collaborative folder. That's why I can't find it. Yeah. Here it is. Okay. So the roof replacement is still tentatively scheduled for April 1st. So that's the first item. And then
And how long do they think that will take?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Just because, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm just curious whether or not we can schedule the docent tours for Memorial Weekend or if they'd still be out there. I don't know. We'll know. Yeah, okay.
Let me ask how long they think the roof replacement will take, because I did not gather that information before the meeting. So let me take a note here. Bowerman, how long for roof replacement?
That's a 5-day job unless the structure underneath it is rotten or there purlins or something like that. When they take the old roof off and they look at it, there might be more.
They're taking the old roof off and they're putting plywood on.
Yeah,
And then they're putting the metal back on.
So that's the whole thing, will have probably 2 weeks.
yeah, you got 2 months, so it should be good.
okay.
So then the future projects is probably where we have the most update. So Pete Schmidt was able to sit down with our engineering staff and kind of put some guesstimate numbers into our funding request portal for future years. So we put in funding requests for a construction planning contract, foundation retrofits, and straightening the building and repairing and aligning posts and beams. So those things have gone into, and again, this is the same thing as our hiring. We make a request, doesn't mean the request will be granted, but if we don't ask, it definitely won't be granted, right? So this
Right.
is our attempt to get things into our systems of record to show that there is a need for us to repair this barn. And these are some of the things that would move the ball forward. So that is a really good thing, because if you don't ask, then the answer is no. And if you do ask, then maybe it'll happen. So I thought that was really great that Pete was able to tie in with our engineers and get that stuff in timely.
So he has the engineers provided a rough cost estimate for each of those 3 things. Okay.
Yes, they did.
Cool. So in between that, so docent tours are iffy depending on roof work. Probably not docent tours for 4th of July because of, I guess it depends on whether the bats show up depending on the roof
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So, okay. But then what work is the rack funded stuff for this season?
So Sarah, we talked about potential other like little projects like the parking lot and stuff. Do you know if, because I think that was that a NEPA thing or just a section 106 thing?
I don't remember. I do know that for the rack piece of this, Pete Schmidt has received a job code for the rack work for this year. So I can ask him to reach out to you and just plan that out more specifically.
So, yeah, well, I think we got that covered. You know, I sent a draft of the sign to Pete.
Okay.
And he was gonna show it to the interpretive specialist type people and hopefully they won't laugh. And so we're trying to get this design of the sign done and then, yeah, we can order the sign and all that stuff. I think we've got that covered and moving along. It was, when we had our meeting, we were talking about other small projects that we
So
could
future
do.
projects.
Yeah, that the rack could fund at the barn. So, I didn't bring my notes, but there was some stuff like, you know, improving the parking area, or maybe we had to do NEPA and for adding to the parking area. So anyway, I guess.
So that would Anyway, I have a cost estimate for the parking area in my email from Pete. So Pete said the parking area will likely cost around $50,000.
So potentially, I could help Pete do a RAC proposal for that funding to improve the parking area.
That sounds like a possibility. Let me confirm that with Pete, because I think, you know, Pete was gonna ask about installing a parking area. I don't see anything from him about like a sticking point for the parking area, but that's something that I can check in with and make sure he'd be good with partnering with that proposal.
Why don't you do that and then just have either you or Pete get with Carol?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you, that's great.
Anything else on the barn? No,
For my barn updates,
what's that?
I'm good.
Okay, how about any updates on Great American Outdoor Act? Either.
So I have our project updates just to give real quick. So we currently have 3 projects on the west side. One is the South Fork developed site improvements. And we are working with the Watershed Research Training Center staff under an agreement. And they have been making some pretty significant upgrades and repairs out at the High and Palm sites. And for those of you that are not aware, the High and Palm sites are free, which means we do not collect fees. So essentially we are tied to appropriated funds to repair and upgrade and do deferred maintenance at those sites. So the GAOA was a big boon for High and Palm rec sites. And I'm trying to open up my box folder with the pictures. So out there, they've been doing improvements to the roads. They were in pretty bad shape. They've been adding new fire rings, new picnic tables, some bear boxes. They've been dealing with hazard trees. They've been just doing some veg management, trying to make the sites a little bit more fire safe. So if any of you have not been camping out there or been out to Little Rock, you should go. It's right on the river. It's really pretty. And they have been making them very nice, painting the bathrooms. So that's where they're at right now. The next place they're going to head to is Forest Glen. We had slated those campgrounds to have new campfire rings, new picnic tables, bear boxes, road improvements. So now some of it's going to be funded through GAOA, and some of it I was able to purchase those products with the post-fire money. But we will continue to work out there. And then our 2 other projects are Trinity Alps projects. One is slated to begin this summer, improving the trail to Doe Lake with the Backcountry CCC program. They will be starting the season, finishing the Tango Blue reroute, and then heading over to Granite Lake and Doe Lake. And then our other project is the Landers Loop Trail reroute. And the Eastern Sierra Conservation Corps is under agreement to be working on that. They did some work last year and then they got ousted by the fires. So they will be back out this summer to work on that. We were not selected for any projects in fiscal year 22 under GAOA. And we have yet to hear what projects have been selected for 23. And I have not seen anything about project submission for fiscal year 24 yet.
Okay.
But I've also been doing another job since the beginning of the year. So maybe there were some updates that Sarah can, or Tara can provide about future GAOA.
So Sally, if you have nifty pictures of the revamped campgrounds in High Palm.
I do, and I am working to pull those up now.
I'm thinking, would that be the kind of thing to put in the recreation guide, like, feature the places that, okay, this is really nice, it's just been fixed up. you know, and again, trying to direct people to places that are more welcoming. So if you know, so maybe if you can send me pictures, I can,
Mhm.
we can, you know,
Get
yeah,
on those-
put a kind of a push for those.
I think that is a great idea, Carol.
So Laura, do you guys have, does BLM have any Great American Outdoor Act money coming in Trinity County?
No, is the short answer. We have a GOA project, but it's in Shasta County.
Yeah.
We have a deferred maintenance project that is in French Gulch, which I guess is also Shasta County.
Okay,
We
Just-
are looking at putting some projects in for the ecosystem restoration of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. They have fiscal year 22 money for shovel-ready projects. And ecosystem restoration is broader than it sounds. It includes recreation improvements to recreation sites where we are responding to use over carrying capacity or use affected by climate change or use like that's unsustainable. So we are going to submit Steiner Flat Campground into that. I've been kind of pulling out my hair trying to figure out where the money is going to come from because we're committed to doing that project. So if we get that money, that would be really awesome. So yeah, that's our plan for that. If you guys have other suggestions for that bipartisan infrastructure bill, it seems like maybe there's less process than GOA. So we're hopeful that it will be good for us, but we don't have any big recreation projects planned in Trinity County besides the Steiner Flat.
okay. Any other questions, comments on the Great American Outdoor Act?
So just because I didn't pull the pictures up in time. So here is a picture of the recovered Forest Glen campground. I can do before and after shots if anyone wants to see those, but essentially it looked like just a bomb went off in the campground. You can see in the background is what's remaining of the slash pile, but they did a really good job. And I think people are going to enjoy recreating on this one. This is Little Rock. So we've added new picnic tables and we're actually going to try to start doing trash service out to High Palm. If people start dumping personal trash out there, of course, we'll have to reassess. But we really want people to start recreating out in High Palm. It's just a beautiful place along the South Fork of the Trinity. They actually worked with JF Shea, who is working on the road project on Highway 36 to get big boulders delivered. I believe the rocks were free, right? Which is pretty cool. And then, which what we all care about are nice bathrooms. But this is a Little Rock bathroom, all repainted anyway. So here's just a couple of photos showing the work they've been doing out there.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get the Trinity Journal on some of that and get some stuff, some good press in the newspaper.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Good things getting done.
So I won't lie, I have no one in my staff has capacity to be sharing our story. And if anyone wants to champion that for us, we would love that. We can provide pictures, we can take people out there, whatever is needed. We just don't have the capacity because we're trying to do the work right now.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We're always looking for like content for articles for like our conservation almanac. So maybe that would be a place for us to kind of get with you guys and chat and then get enough information to get it out to the public would be one thing.
It seems like the new reporter at the Trinity Journal, Josh Cozine, will always be looking for subjects to write about, and I think if he's got the pictures, then he might take on the article.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to, he's brand new and he's trying to make sure his byline shows up in the newspaper as much as possible. So, okay. So I had partner updates, but before we get to that, I was just curious from the volunteer coordinator side of things. Do you have anything in particular that you wanted to kind of cover for the group and try to make us volunteer for things?
Yeah. So on the 19th, March 19th, Saturday, there's going to be an invasive weed pool. We're gonna help by providing the supplies for it. So all the weed pullers, I can get that flyer out to y'all, but for the most part, the Trinity County RCD, I believe, is taking the headway on doing that. And also it's a project with the BLM as well. And
It's in
then,
Bucktail, right?
yeah. So I'm guessing you already have that flyer.
I think there was an article in the Trinity Journal.
Press release in the journal this week. It's been on Facebook as well.
Awesome. And then April 2nd and April 3rd, so that's a Saturday and a Sunday. At the East Weaver Campground, we're going to be hosting a group of volunteers. We're planning on having a capacity limit at 30. And we're going to have volunteers staying there who will be working at the Sweepstakes Trail to help building that new trail project. And the goal is to get a lot of rock work done so that we could use that area to train up wilderness volunteers to get training on doing specific rock work projects in the wilderness area in the Trinity Alps. So if anyone's interested in doing that, April 2nd and April 3rd, we'll get a flyer out for that officially this upcoming week. I'm waiting to get more information on that project right now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That it for now?
Yeah, for now, that's all we got. And then there's another planting project that I'm not involved with, but the Watershed Center, you may have seen flyers for that as well. But it's going to be planting trees along riparian environment in Hayford.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the RCD's been involved in some levels on that one too.
Yep.
Yeah, cool, okay. So partner update, so we don't have I must have scared all the partners from showing up because I actually put them on the agenda. So the Watershed Center's not here, the Sen's not here.
DDA is not.
Trail Alliance, you guys got any kind of updates for the group?
Well, we're going to be serving breakfast at the volunteer days for the Sweepstakes Trail on April 2nd.
Oh, okay.
We're supporting the trail building by gathering volunteers and helping them out.
Cool. Anything else? Well, we got the Grange Classic coming up in
Yeah,
June.
that's coming up in June.
Are there needs for volunteer days to
Absolutely.
get trail ready? Are you gonna do some?
That's just being assessed right now, what those needs are going to be, but, kind of wait till April. We hope for the last rain.
Yeah.
Hope for any rain.
Is
We'll be looking for volunteers during the race.
During the race itself?
Yeah, we need volunteers during the race week.
And this is the regular.
It's a regular show-up race. For a week prior to it, the beginner's course is online. You can do that anytime.
Yeah.
Every other course is
Top secret.
race.
One day,
Race day.
Saturday race.
Yeah, okay.
Is that a fixed course? Like, is it the same each year or?
No,
It has
we'd
been,
like
very
to have the same each year, but it's been modified each year.
it's brand new this year because it includes the Blue Lead,
Mm-hmm.
which is a trail that was
Yeah.
finished last year.
So maybe.
It's much
yeah,
different.
Trying to benefit from the volunteer coordinator to help you find volunteers.
Well, we're looking forward to having a membership and volunteer appreciation kind of day the end of April, and we'll be doing either a hike or bike ride, or we may be doing some cleanup for BLM. Anyway, it's all kind of just gelling, but
Okay.
we'll be trying to get volunteers for the bike races. And we're waiting for the, we're part of the state grant proposal for the parks that went in. Our bike park was part of that grant proposal.
Right.
So we're waiting to hear on that.
Right. Cool.
They're very involved in volunteering on the sweepstakes trail as well. A lot of their members have been coming out.
Yeah.
Look, Kelly, anything on the RCD side?
I mentioned it, I think, kind of pre-meeting, but Monique organized a meeting of the minds for getting the remaining NEPA approved and newly adopted system trails named within the Weaver Basin Trail System. So we've been working with her and other staff at the Forest Service to get that information sort of updated within the actual GIS data so that we can be set for doing mapping and things of that nature. So it's pretty much together now. I need to address some things that Mike, I guess, brought up with regard to a map that was sent out fairly recently, but I'm not sure exactly what needs to happen with that because I didn't really get a chance to look at it very closely. So, or his comments. So we're looking forward to getting, the RAC projects in place because I've been trying to hold on to a bunch of money that came to us that we're going to use for in-kind and match on that before we really dig into doing some of the GIS end of things. We have somebody on staff that's worked with the Cs that's going to be working, sort of taking lead on the actual work that we intend to do, part of which will be on what's now called Junkins Ditch and the upper Howditch trails, as well as some cleanup work that needs to happen on Mackenzie Gulch, the loop up on Mackenzie Gulch. So we're looking forward to getting all of those projects, but that one in particular, all the rec projects, but that particular one in place so that we can get to work. And I was hoping that we get some of that done prior to the Grange Classic, because some of those trails are pretty amazing and astounding to be out on. So that's kind of it.
Yeah.
For rec
So,
stuff right
I
now.
don't have any great updates on where the rec projects are, other than I know that they've been signed by Rachel Berkey.
All but one.
And the next step was LeJean working with grants and agreements to get Forest Service staff assigned as the project managers for each of the RAC proposals. Then grants and agreements can start, working on the proposals. I suggested to LeJean that he get with all the proponents that have multiple projects in the RAC and find out what are their highest, what ones do they want to approve first. And I'm assuming that hasn't happened yet.
I believe we've provided that information to LeJean from our perspective, and I believe the Watershed Center did also.
Okay.
That hasn't been handed down to us program managers that are assigned to the agreements. So I don't know if you want to give that information directly, Kelly, if any of your trails projects are your highest priorities. Could you email me so I know which ones to be working on? Because I'm not coming back to this job until essentially June 1st, but I'm going to try to do this either at night or early in the morning to get your projects in.
I will send that to you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
Okay, anything else?
Put up 2 bike racks.
Oh, yeah, so the Rotary Club, has a bike rack project, and yesterday we installed the first pair of bike racks over in the Morris kind of building complex next to the ice cream shop.
Oh, I saw those, yeah.
And we'll have a volunteer, Rotary kind of volunteer day, Saturday coming up, and we'll install 3 more pair. 1 pair will go in front of the courthouse, and then another pair in front of the movie theater, and the final pair on Highway 3 next to Bridget Carson's building. Downriver is at. And then we're open to, anybody who wants, to chip in money for getting more of them. And if they have locations, we'll talk. We now have, it's on the computer at the welding shop, and it's just a matter of paying for the materials and the time to get it done. They're pretty cool. I guess.
And where there was one that was at basically right there at up north, and where was the second one?
They're a pair, and they're both of them are at the same place.
Oh, they're okay.
So they handle 2 bikes.
They each handle 2 bikes.
Cool.
So there's no bike racks at the park to speak of at all.
Right, so we met Wes and I talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay, and he said he was gonna have a GTA about what you got budget for that kind of thing.
We're putting together a bicycle repairs
Right.
thing now,
Got a grant for that.
They explained that too.
and that's at the little shade structure that we built.
Right. Okay. Well, if nothing else, how about on the screen? So Laura, do you have anything else for the group? No?
Nope.
I'll ask Carol this. So does the recreation guide include BLM campgrounds?
Oh, I don't know, I'll check.
Should make
I
sure
think
that
it
they're,
does, I will make sure it does, and I'll check with you.
make sure
Yep.
that they're,
Sounds good. Yeah, send me an email and I can get you all the info if needed.
yeah. Okay, Sarah, anything else to add?
Yes, I have a couple of quick things and then I'll be good. So this is the Bowerman Barn topic. The contractor will have 45 days to complete the roof replacement.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, and then for the parking area, we will need to do a little bit of 106, but Pete thinks that he can get that done quickly. So we can still put in for the rack.
Yay, okay, awesome.
Okay, cool, great.
That's
Is
it.
I have a question, Sarah. Is the contractor that's working on Bowerman, I understand that there is somebody that sort of does and has like a crew of people that will come and volunteer to do like barn restoration, historic barn restoration. Is that the same folks?
No.
No, it isn't.
This is Zara, somebody or other, it's a private contractor, it's different than the historic corps that came and did the earlier, some stabilization work.
Okay. Okay, because we've been in contact with them about doing some work on the YFR barn.
Yeah, I sent the contact info to, Elizabeth.
It was Elizabeth, yeah. So I know that I was CC'd in some of that, but we just need to sort of get on to that.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
Sally, anything else?
You know, if anyone who wants a job, tell them to call me. Trail job, rec job,
Bathrooms.
any job.
My understanding is you guys are coming up short on firefighters too.
So.
I think so.
So Sally, I did say the volunteers will have a cleanup day at Bowerman, so we'll clean the trail and we'll, depending on how fast the grass is growing, we'll do all the weed whacking and stuff, so we'll get that done.
Thank you.
So Jose, you've been kind of listening in. You got anything to add here at the end?
Well, just thank you for allowing me to step in and start picking up on all the great work you're all doing. You know, partnership is the way to really get things moving, and when there's public involvement, what better way, right? So thank you for allowing me to be here, and thanks for all the efforts that you guys are taking on to get to see things through. Appreciate that.
Right.
So what lake is behind you?
Oh, that's Cherry Lake. That's over on the Stanislaus National Forest on the Groveland Ranger District, just adjacent to Yosemite National Park there.
Oh,
Cherry Lake. Yeah, it's really sweet. Very few people out there. Well, it's starting to pick up on, getting recognized, but it's still one of those kind of like isolated kind of locations. So, you get maybe 150 people on the weekend. So that's not much compared to many other locations.
that's a lot for up here. Okay, well, thanks. I think if there's nothing else, I guess we call it a wrap.
Yeah.
And we'll hopefully see some of you next Friday for the full collaborative meeting. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.